Michigan, Colorado State, Connecticut, Duke, Eastern Michigan, Florida Atlantic, Idaho, Iowa, Kent State, Louisiana Tech, Louisiana Monroe, Louisville, Miami, Middle Tennessee, Missouri, Nevada, Nevada Las Vegas, North Texas, Northern Illinois, Northwestern Ohio, Purdue, Rice, San Jose State, South Alabama, South Florida, Stanford, Temple, Texas, San Antonio, Toledo, Troy, Tulane, Vanderbilt, Wake Forest, Washington State, Western Kentucky, Western Michigan. My show's 30 minutes long. I had time to name the schools that have never been placed on probation. That's a shame. It's a doggone shame. Prior to the break, I went into the penalties or the sanctions that were placed on the Penn State University's football program. Very interesting. Some of the comparisons to their penalties compared to SMU's death penalty by the NCAA back in 1987. Either way you put it, a lot of people, including myself, think that Penn State penalties are a little more severe than the death penalty, but judging from what we heard, Penn State had no choice but to sign off and agree on this because the NCAA, according to reports, were going to place Penn State on a 4-year death penalty. It would have been much more severe than the 1987 death penalty that was placed on the SMU football program. Now, once again, if you wanted to hear past broadcasts of the Babe Tom Herman Show, feel free to visit my YouTube channel, Babe Tom Herman. And also, please feel free to follow me on Twitter at babethomherman.com. Now, before I went on break, I mentioned that I will be discussing the dangers of immortalizing active football coaches or active coaches, period. An interesting article I read this past week, The Coaching Lesson of Penn State, also titled No Pedestals for Coaches, by John Feinstein, published on July 13th of this year, 2012, for the Washington Post. Now, a very interesting article. Feinstein, of course, author of 28 books, also a sports columnist for the Washington Post, 1977 Duke graduate. And it's very interesting what he said in his articles when the University of North Carolina wanted to name its new arena after basketball coach Dean Smith in 1986. Smith objected, saying that arenas shouldn't be named for coaches. He was talked into it by university officials who said it was what most alumni wanted. But he was right. When you put someone's name on a building, you immortalize him or her. And basically, he's saying the living shouldn't be immortalized. Joe Paterno was proof of that. The tragedy that these guys sat back, 4 administrators, and one including football coach Joe Paterno, sat back and let Jerry Sandusky just get away with these awful crimes. And it reminds everyone involved in college athletics that no coach, regardless of how many games he wins, how many games she wins, how many players he graduates or they graduate, or how much money him or her raises for the university, no coach should be allowed to have the absolute power that Paterno had at Penn State. Absolute power doesn't always corrupt absolutely, but it absolutely can corrupt. Now listen to that. I love what John Feinstein said, is that absolute power doesn't always corrupt absolutely, but it absolutely can corrupt. And that's by John Feinstein. Now, Penn State isn't, according to the article, Penn State isn't the only school where the coach is the most powerful figure. Now, years ago, the president of the University of Oklahoma commented, perhaps half-jokingly, that he hoped to build a university worthy of the football program. Now, also 2 years ago, and I remember this when Ohio State's football team was being investigated for multiple NCAA violations, President Gordon G. was asked whether he had considered firing Coach Jim Tressel. His response was, fire him? I just hope he doesn't fire me. Even though he meant that as a joke, it was probably a degree of truth to that. Jim Tressel pretty much ran that football program. So there was a degree of truth to that. Now, he gave also examples of coaches who win championships are huge money makers for their schools. Winning teams lead to more admissions applications, and far more important, massive contributions from alumni and boosters. Whenever Duke University mounts a major fundraising campaign, the centerpiece is men's basketball coach Mike Krzyzewski, who has won 4 national championships and is the winningest coach in men's college basketball history. Now, Krzyzewski's off-court record is at least as laudable as his on-court record, and I certainly agree, because Krzyzewski is a coach of great, strong character, on and off the court. Now, virtually all his players graduate, and he has raised countless dollars for various charitable causes as well as due. That's fine, but no coach should be placed on the pedestal that Paterno was put on at Penn State. Now, this is coming from this article, The Coaching Lessons of Penn State, by John Feinstein. Very good article. And he talks here about college presidents love to talk about the importance of academics and refer to football and basketball players as student athletes. They set themselves up as ambassadors of righteousness, even as they let coaches run wild in the name of winning games and making money. Great article. And that's just one example. You see it all the time. Coaches, have buildings named after them, courts, football fields. I imagine if Nick Saban wins a couple of more national championships down in Alabama, they'll probably name the football stadium after him. I mean, it's amazing the dangers of immortalizing active coaches. That's the dangers. And I'm not saying that Mike Krzyzewski is a bad person. I think he's probably the most respected coach out there at this time. There was two very highly respectable coaches, Krzyzewski and Joe Paterno, but Joe Paterno's out of that picture now. No more for Joe. That legacy has been destroyed, and rightfully so. Rightfully so. PSU, Penn State University, made a football program, or a football coach rather. He was the program. Bigger than the school itself. He was accountable to no person, and now we see dangers of immortalizing a coach, especially if they're still active. Look at UNC, for example. These are my words. Look at UNC, for example. They sold their academic soul for the pursuit of a great football program. I warned my friends, once Butch Davis became coach at Carolina, I warned them that this program was going down. Your program was going down. I have no love for Butch Davis at all. Opportunist. Soon as he took over that program, he wanted to become the face of that football program. And look at the program right now. Academic fraud. Look at the football program. Took a decent program and just totally dismantled it. It's a shame. Now, all fairness to him, he wasn't implicated as of yet, because they're still digging in any wrongdoing, but it happened under his watch. And like I stated on my series, on my 3-part series, after Joe Pa, should coaches be the faces of college and universities? Even though some of the coaches I named were not implicated in any wrongdoing, it happened under their watch, and they should bear the consequences of that. It happened under their watch. Now, this has embarrassed and divided the University of North Carolina, that fine institution over there in Chapel Hill. This has embarrassed and divided this institution. And it's still ongoing investigation. Maybe not from the NCAA, but trust me, they're looking, they're listening. There's a lot of internal investigations going on with the University of North Carolina school systems, university systems, and a lot of internal investigating by the school itself. If anything is found in this, the NCAA is going to react and probably increase the punishment on the football team that they're already on probation. The more you keep digging, the more you're going to find out. And that's my biggest fear, is that they're going to find out that some of this probably went on in the basketball program itself. Now, after University of North Carolina fired Butch Davis, athletic director Dick Bador resigned, and I really don't think it will be too long before Holden Thorpe does as well. And that's the chancellor of the UNC. Now, new athletic director Bubba Cunningham, he really has his hands full. New football coach, Coach Fedora, has his hands full. It's basically time for college and university administrators to take control of these athletic programs. Will most of the administrators start asking, why does the football program have to have another $100 million facility? Why does the offensive coordinator or assistant coaches make nearly $1 million a season? Why school has to abandon a conference appears for a geographical, nonsensical new conference to earn millions more in TV revenue. And when I'm talking about nonsensical, when you have teams starting like Texas, in Texas wanting to go to the East Coast and join a team. And when I'm talking about nonsensical, I'm talking about it makes no sense at all to be in the Midwest considering joining a conference on the West Coast or on the East Coast, and vice versa. You're a team on the East Coast considering joining a conference in the Mountain or Pacific zones. That's stupid. I always wondered why the Atlantic Coast Conference didn't start implementing some name changes themselves. You call yourself the Atlantic Coast Conference, and no knock on this fine conference. Please feel free to visit their website at theacc.com. But why you have Florida State, which is in the Florida Panhandle, which is on the Gulf Coast, not far from the Gulf Coast, and they're in the ACC Conference? Makes no sense to me at all. Makes no sense to me at all. But it is what it is. And basically, in a nutshell, if you can't recruit players in all sports that are capable of succeeding, and I'm talking about schools, that are capable of succeeding academically and expect them to achieve in the classroom. Expect them to achieve in the classroom. But it makes me wonder, a kid such as Fab Melo, did he have any business in college at all? And I've always stated that college is not for everyone. You know from my past episodes that I suggested that the NBA D-League should be open for kids, should be expanded, so kids such as Fab Melo, who may not be academically gifted, can leave high school and go to the D-League rather than go to college knowing that he's not going to succeed academically. It just makes no sense to me. And to me, you have to expect these players to achieve academically in the classroom. That's why you have to respect Duke football program, Wake Forest football program. They're private schools, but they will not, especially the football programs. It's been called for years for them, people have been crying out for years for them to lower their academic standards somewhat to to get better athletes on the football field. But they will not do it. And I don't blame them, because they're not going to destroy the academic integrity of their programs. And to me, the NCAA and member schools need to start to incorporate a system that would allow them to treat these athletes. If they're not going to expect those expectations of them in the classroom, then the NCAA and member schools need to start to incorporate a system that would allow them to treat these athletes as semi-pros. And basically, that's what they are anyway. Semi-professional athletes. And I call for the NCAA to change your name or change your ways. Basically, change your name. If you're not going to do that, if you're not going to enforce it for every school to expect these and to have this high expectations, do it on a consistent basis. Forget the name of the coaches that are immortalized and start enforcing these rules that you have. And that 10,000 or 50,000 page journal or that NCAA manual rule book that they have that no one understands anything in it. Change your name or change your ways. Change the name from the NCAA, the National Collegiate Athletic Association, to the National Cash Athletic Association if you're not going to do it on a consistent basis. Change your name or change your ways. Unfortunately, my time is up, and I do certainly hope that you enjoyed your early morning coffee with Babe Tom Herman. And please tune in to the Babe Tom Herman Show each and every Saturday morning at 7:30 a.m. on this fine radio station, Power 750 WAUG, and on Power750.com. So please continue to sit back and enjoy your early morning coffee and enjoy the rest of your day.